All right, let's dive right in, shall we? Superconductors. That's where we're headed today. And here's the thing, not the ones you're probably already familiar with. We're going deeper, right? Deeper. You guys are already ahead of the curve. So we found this super interesting article. It's on scitechdaily.com. It came out like yesterday, December 22nd, 2024. It's called Light Uncovers Hidden Physics in Superconductors. Catchy title. And it might just have the key to the holy grail of superconductors. Room, temperature, superconductors.
Yeah, I mean, that's the dream, right? I mean, can you imagine? Superconductivity, but no crazy super cold temperatures needed.
Right. Okay, so got to ask, what makes this Bi2212 superconductor, the one they're all hyped about in this article, so special?
Well, it's a copper oxide material, and it's a bit of a mystery, to be honest. It works at, like, way higher temperatures than traditional theories can explain. It's like it's breaking the rules, defying the Bardeen-Cooper-Schrieffer theory, BCS theory, you know.
A rule breaker. Okay, I like it. But there's more to this article, right? It's not just, hey, look, this thing's weird. They actually did something really cool to study this Bi2212. They used light.
Yep. They used this technique called light transmittance. Basically, they shone light right through the material, which is different from how it's usually done, you know, with optical reflectivity, where you just see how the light bounces back.
So it's like what you're trying to figure out what a forest looks like, but you're only allowed to look at the outer edges of the trees. You can't actually go in.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But this new method, it's like they can actually see what's happening deep inside the material structure.
That's awesome. Okay, so what did they see? What did they find out about Bi2212? The article mentioned optical anisotropy, right? Something about that being connected to the material structure.
So anisotropy, in the simplest terms, just means that a material can act differently depending on, like, which way you're looking at it. Think of wood. It's way easier to split wood with the grain than against it, you know. That's anisotropy right there.
Okay, that makes sense. So Bi2212, it has this this directional behavior too. But what does that have to do with it being a superconductor?
Well, that is the million-dollar question. But this research, it suggests that there's a connection between this optical anisotropy and something called, and it's a mouthful, incommensurate modulation. It's in the crystal structure.
Incommensurate modulation. That sounds intense. Break that down for us, for listeners who maybe aren't, you know, crystal experts or whatever.
Okay, so picture this. You're trying to tile a floor, right? But all your tiles are a little bit different sizes, so you end up with gaps, overlaps. It's a mess, yeah? That's kind of what's happening inside this Bi2212 crystal. The atoms, they aren't all arranged in a perfect repeating pattern. It's like kind of wonky. And those irregularities, they seem to be messing with how the material interacts with light, and maybe, just maybe, with how it manages to become a superconductor at those high temperatures.
Fascinating. So it's like the imperfections, the little flaws, they're actually what's making this material so special.
It's kind of a paradox, isn't it? But yeah, that's the idea.
Okay, I'm with you.
Yeah.
But how do they know for sure? How did they prove that link between, what was it, the mismatched tiles and the anisotropy?
Ah, clever trick, this one. They added lead doping, they call it. They added lead to the Bi2212, and that actually evened out that incommensurate modulation. It was like smoothing out those wrinkles in our tile floor.
So more lead, smoother tiles, and what happened then?
Well, guess what? The anisotropy went down. It decreased as they added more lead, which pretty much tells us that, yeah, those structural irregularities, those wonky tiles, they're playing a big role in Bi2212's, well, its unique optical properties. And this is where it gets really interesting. I mean, think about it. We've known about these high-temperature superconductors, right? But we haven't really, like, understood why they work the way they do. It's been a bit of a black box. But now, this research, it gives us a whole new perspective, like a new piece of the puzzle, you know? We're connecting the structure, the way it looks, to the optical properties, how it interacts with light, and then to the superconducting behavior itself. It's like we're getting closer to figuring out the secret code of these high-temperature superconductors.
Okay, yeah, I see what you mean. I'm starting to get the bigger picture here. But, I mean, how does this research actually help us get to room temperature superconductors? Is that even, like, a realistic goal?
It's definitely a leap, no doubt about that. But it's not impossible, right? This research gives us a new tool, a new way to, like, tinker with these materials. We know more about this incommensurate modulation now, so maybe, just maybe, we can engineer superconductors, like custom made, you know, to have the properties we want.
It's like we've been trying to bake this superconductor cake, but we didn't have the recipe, and now, boom, they found a key ingredient. We can start, like, experimenting, right? Trying different combinations and seeing what happens.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. Who knows what kind of crazy superconductor cakes we'll be baking in the future with this new knowledge.
Speaking of cakes, or maybe it's more like a whole feast at this point,
Mm-hmm.
what are some things we could actually do with room temperature superconductors? Like, how would they change things?
Oh man, where do we even begin?
Oh,
Let's
man.
start with energy, right? Power grids that can move electricity around with like almost zero energy loss. Think about it. Less wasted energy, lower costs, and a much, much smaller carbon footprint. It would be huge for sustainability.
That's wild. And what about, like, maglev trains? They already use superconductors, right? Would room temperature superconductors make them, like, even better?
Absolutely. The maglev trains we have now, they need these massive, expensive cooling systems just to keep the superconductors cold enough to work. But with room temperature superconductors, boom, no more cooling systems, maglev everywhere. More efficient, more affordable, and way faster. It would completely change how we travel.
This, like, seriously blowing my mind. But let's not forget about medical stuff, right? I think MRI machines use superconductors too, don't they?
Yep, you got it. MRI machines, they use superconducting magnets to get those super detailed images of like the inside of your body. With room temperature superconductors, MRIs could be smaller, way more powerful, and like way more people could use them. We could catch diseases earlier, be more accurate with the diagnoses, the whole 9 yards.
So we're talking about, like, a total revolution in healthcare too. This is insane. But hold on, the article, it was all about Bi2212, which is still a high-temperature superconductor, right? Not room temperature. Are we getting a little ahead of ourselves with all this future talk?
True. It's important to stay grounded, and you're right. This research, it's a step, a big one, but not the finish line, yeah. But each step gets us closer to, like, really understanding what's going on, and that's what matters. That's what helps us figure out what to do next, where to focus our energy, you know?
So it's like maybe room temperature superconductivity is still a ways off, but this research, it's like giving us a better map, right?
Yeah.
Showing us the path forward.
Exactly. And that's the beauty of science, right? It's this constant journey, always exploring, always learning, with each new discovery leading to the next. And this research, it's like it's opened a whole new door, a whole new path. Who knows what we'll find down there, you know? What other breakthroughs are waiting for us?
All right, before we go too far down that road, there was one more thing in the article, something that really caught my eye. I mentioned something about symmetry breaking and how it might be important for high-temperature superconductivity. What's the deal with that?
Ah, yes. Symmetry breaking. Now, that's a fascinating topic. It's kind of a mind-bending concept, but I'll try to keep it simple. Basically, it means that a system that was, like, perfectly symmetrical, balanced, you know, it loses that symmetry under certain conditions. So picture, like a soap bubble, right? Perfectly round, looks the same from every angle, but poke it just a little bit and boom, it changes shape. It's not perfectly symmetrical anymore. That's symmetry breaking.
Okay, I can picture that, but how does that apply to, like, superconductors?
Well, some scientists think that a similar kind of symmetry breaking might be happening in these high-temperature superconductors. Like when the material goes from normal to superconducting, some of the symmetries in its structure, they get messed up, they break. And maybe, just maybe, this breaking of symmetry, it helps those electrons move freely without any resistance. It's like it opens up a pathway for them.
Whoa. Okay, I'm trying to wrap my head around that. So you're saying that these imperfections, this breaking of symmetry, it could actually be what allows superconductivity to happen at higher temperatures.
That's the idea. It's kind of counterintuitive, right? You'd think perfect symmetry would be the key. But nope, nature often works in mysterious ways. And this new research, using that light transmittance technique, it could be a powerful tool for like really studying this symmetry breaking in Bi2212 and other high-temperature superconductors.
So by watching how the light interacts with the material
Yeah.
as it transitions into that superconducting state, they might be able to actually see these like tiny changes in symmetry happening. That's pretty amazing.
It is, and it could lead to some truly groundbreaking insights into the nature of superconductivity itself.
All right, so we've covered a lot of ground here. We've got groundbreaking research, mind-boggling mysteries of high-temperature superconductors, and even this like totally mind-bending concept of symmetry breaking.
Yeah.
Where do we go from here? What's next in this scientific detective story?
Yeah, it's like these researchers, they've like kicked open a whole new door in the world of superconductors, you know? We've got new clues now, new tools, and maybe even a whole new way to think about these materials.
That's what I love about science, you know? It's not just about like getting the answers, it's about asking better questions. This research, it makes us question some of the things we thought we knew about high-temperature superconductors, and it's opened up all these new paths to explore.
Like that whole symmetry breaking thing. It's a tough one to wrap your head around for sure, but it also feels like a massive opportunity, you know? What if we could figure out how to like control it, to manipulate those symmetry changes on purpose? Who knows what we could do then? It's like imagine you're learning a new language, right?
Yeah.
You got to understand the grammar, the vocabulary, and then boom, you can start building sentences, you can express these complex ideas. Well, in this case, the language is like the connection between structure, symmetry, and superconductivity. And this research. It's like they've given us a whole new phrase book.
Love that.
Yeah.
Okay, so thinking about this research as part of this like bigger conversation, this scientific back and forth, what are some of the questions that other scientists are going to be asking now?
Oh, I'm sure lots of folks are going to be trying to replicate these findings, you know? See if it works with other materials, not just Bi2212. Like, does that link between incommensurate modulation and anisotropy, does that hold up for other high-temperature superconductors? Or is Bi2212 just a weird special case?
Yeah, that's a good point. And I bet a lot of people are going to be playing around with that light transmittance technique too, right?
Yeah.
Seeing if it can uncover hidden stuff in other materials.
Totally. And then there's that whole symmetry breaking angle. Can we actually learn how to break symmetry in specific ways on purpose to make superconductivity even better? Could we even, like, design materials from scratch with built-in symmetry breaking? That's some next-level stuff right there.
Now you're talking like straight-up sci-fi. But you know what? I wouldn't be surprised if some of these ideas, they end up becoming reality. Science is always, like, pushing the boundaries, exceeding our expectations.
Absolutely. And that's why it's so important to like support fundamental research, you know? Even if we don't see the practical applications right away, it's the foundation for everything that comes next. Who knows what kind of crazy tech we'll have in the future, all thanks to this new understanding of superconductors.
It's like planting seeds. You don't see the fruit right away, but if you're patient and you take care of those seeds, eventually something amazing can grow.
I like that. And just like a garden, right? Science thrives on diversity. We need people exploring all these different approaches, asking all kinds of questions. That's what drives progress.
Well said. Okay, so we've reached the end of our deep dive into the wild world of superconductors. What's the one thing our listeners should take away from all this? What should they be thinking about as they go about their day?
I'd say just stay curious, you know. The world's full of mysteries. And even the most ordinary things can be hiding these incredible secrets, just waiting for someone to find them. Like those researchers with their light and their crystals, sometimes all it takes is a new perspective, asking the right questions. Embrace that sense of wonder, you know?
I love that. And who knows, maybe one day soon we'll be talking about room temperature superconductors, like they're like a normal everyday thing, all thanks to those curious minds pushing the boundaries of science.
Fingers crossed. Until then, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep that spark of curiosity burning bright. The future is full of possibilities.
Couldn't have said it better myself. And on that note, we'll wrap things up. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. See you next time.